Well, this one really caught my attention. This is the Inspire Upper Airway Stimulation. All the content here is provided by FDA. This device, when I saw this, I thought, oh, it must be like a heart stimulator or something. But wait, no, this lead is going up into the head, and there's a generator implanted along with a respiratory sensing lead in the body. This was a PMA, a pre-market authorization with FDA. So not easy to get. And I'm sure many listening to this some are coming because you're interested in product development and how product development hurdles are overcome and how regulatory hurdles can be overcome. Some of you are coming because you probably experience sleep apnea, and whereas, my first reaction to this is, who would implant something into their body to deal with obstructive sleep apnea? And I think the answer, the more I humbly consider it, is quite a few people would be willing to do that to get away from the burden of a CPAP mask every night. So nevertheless, it is a PMA, pre-market authorization. There is risk associated with it. Obviously, everything we say here is neither medical nor legal advice. We're just telling you what FDA said about this product, and then reflecting on it from our perspective as a MedTech development firm and MedTech development community. So here's what it is. The Inspire Upper Airway Stimulation System is an implantable nerve stimulator. So it sends little electrical shocks to treat obstructive sleep apnea. And it can be programmed, and there's a patient remote. Who is it for? People with obstructive sleep apnea who, I'm sorry if this is a little bit pedantic, but we're just going to go through it really quick because some of you are interested in this, who have an upper limit baseline AHI of 100. This has been increased from 65 to 100. The approval also increases the upper limit for recommended body mass index to 40, from 32 to 40. How does it work? This device detects the patient's breathing pattern and maintains an open airway by stimulating the nerves using small electrical impulses. The doctor can program stimulation settings using the external physician programmer. You turn it on before you fall asleep, and you turn it off when you wake up, which I find absolutely fascinating because it's very much like we've seen TENS units out there and other things like that. And one has to imagine they've gotten this to a level where you can sleep and it's not annoying. Certainly gives you pause to think, wow, it's going to be instructing my muscles to respond. But I guess if you think about things like pacemakers and things like that, we've been doing this as implantables for quite a few years. When is it used? It's not for everybody. This is used to treat people with moderate to severe obstructive sleep apnea who are not able to use or tolerate PAP or BiPAP treatments. So if you can't use PAP or BiPAP, this could actually be a lifesaver. Also, you can't have a complete blockage or collapse of the parts of your airway that would matter here. So this is people 22 and older who can't tolerate PAP or BiPAP. But it's also used for people between the ages of 18 to 21 are not candidates for surgery to remove the adenoids and tonsils. It's something we've been involved in before, is adenotonsillectomy. And if you can't get your adenoids and tonsils removed, so you have an obstruction back there because they're swollen, and you've been considered for other treatments, then you might be eligible for this implantable system. Now, there are certainly contraindications on this, but we're not going to tell you all those right now. You can go to the website, FDA's website, and you can dig down there to learn more about this system if you're interested. But as always, time spent learning for free from MedTech Crossroads will save you headaches in your MedTech journey. We like to apply these news articles to MedTech Crossroads application areas: FDA regulatory process, startup life, market research, technical development, reimbursement, fundraising. intellectual property, project management, testing, and manufacturing. And on this one, for this sleep apnea stimulator, it's implantable. And as unappealing as that sounds to so many of us, if you're suffering from it and you have to wear a mask every night, or you can't wear a mask, as is the criteria for this device, it might be a lifesaver. So which ones did we flag here? I flagged to talk about the FDA regulatory process, startup life, market research, reimbursement, and fundraising. Why? Because I want to bring it all down to one point, which is the tech transfer chasm. It's really cool to see a device of this, maybe not complexity, but invasiveness, making it all the way to market with a addressable market and clear expectations around it. But for every project that makes it there, there are hundreds that never do. And oftentimes they're just an idea in the eye of their creator, sometimes behind the walls of the university, sometimes the product of somebody who's a clinician out there doing cool things and innovating. What often happens in these situations is that a person says, you know, I could stimulate those muscles just like a TENS unit, just like a pacemaker. I could stimulate those muscles, and I bet I could keep that airway open. I bet I could keep it patent. Well, that seems objectively true. Somebody did that. But here's where it often goes off the rails with so many startups and so many projects. They don't recognize the burden. So let's go first to the regulatory process. They don't understand that that device that would stand in for a CPAP is nothing like a CPAP. It's not even a class 2 device. It's turned into a class 3 device. And so by misidentifying the regulatory hurdles associated with the development process, they're going to end up in a world of hurt. That world of hurt is going to be centered around the idea of how much they need to fundraise. Because as it turns out, getting a PMA cleared is incredibly more expensive than getting a class 2 device cleared through the 510K or de novo process. So the fundraising is going to go off the rails. But there's another aspect, and that's reimbursement. To understand how reimbursement plays in, CPAPs are a highly refined, really billing system. I feel like CPAPs have turned into a billing system these days, reporting back, compliance, and everything else. What would the reimbursement be for this new pathway? Is it eligible? Has CMS set a code? How does the pricing compare? It's got to cost more to implant something into somebody than it does to hand them a CPAP machine and tell them to use it. So the chasm here between the initial idea that technically is completely feasible, as we've seen, and how do you get there? It's really a matter of counting the cost, understanding that regulatory pathway, understanding that reimbursement pathway, surrounding yourself with investors who want to walk that path with you and who are willing to do it and who understand the magnitude of what you're biting off. It doesn't mean that more invasive solutions can't be good. It just means you have to understand that it is a more invasive solution and that it's leading you to a pathway that's going to be harder. This changes your entire startup life. But one more thing to flag, the market research, what you need to do to enable your technical development process. We're not even flagging technical development or project management or testing or manufacturing because all of these things are downstream of understanding what does your market really need. Are there people whose pain point is such that because they can't get access to CPAP because they don't qualify, or because they don't qualify for adenotonsillectomy, they might be willing to use such an invasive implantable device. And so it motivates you to get in there and do that market research long before the technical development happens. Sure, there's project management hurdles, and with the PMA, they're very, very large. Intellectual property is kind of what it is. If you're in a niche space and you found something really cool, well, good for you. That's not really affected here. Testing and manufacturing, of course, are part of it, but they're all downstream of this question of, have you really counted the cost? If you think to yourself, we can be better than a CPAP because we've got an implantable, well, that may be true, but you got to understand the price point. You've got to understand the market. You've got to understand that regulatory pathway. And you've got to have a team of investors around you who understand, accept, and embrace the risks to getting that product to market. Hey, if you like what you're hearing, subscribe to us on YouTube. And you can watch the live show every Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern on Zoom or on YouTube Live. Well, those are our news segments for today. How'd we do, Steve? This is like a completely new thing for us. We're doing this differently, but not differently.
This is definitely different today. I think it's going good, though.
You're keeping up with it. I appreciate that.
Keeping up back here.
See, this is the thing. This is like the Patreon thing, right? If you're here, and you are here, thank you to our listeners live here, both on Zoom, some listeners on Zoom and some listeners on YouTube. You get to hear all the banter. You're not going to necessarily hear all this banter when these segments get cut down into the smaller stuff. So I don't know if that's a perk. Maybe I shouldn't have said that. As always, contact at medtechcrossroads.com or put your questions into Zoom or on YouTube. We would love to hear from you if it's something that was brought up by one of the segments that we just did, or if it's an event you have coming up in the local ecosystem. We'd love to hear about it. We're going to go in just a second to the upcoming events, but I don't know, Steve, anything pop to your mind as we were going through any of those?
Not in particular. I mean, the fact that there's an implantable alternative to CPAP is certainly interesting, but like you said, it's relatively invasive compared to a external device. So it'll be interesting how much market share they can really manage to achieve with that long term.
I think that's the key, right? Like, yeah, how much market share can they achieve? Because I know that any number of people, when they come to us at Into Being, they say, oh, there's an amazing market for my device.